Okay. Um, I'm John Wirtz, Montgomery County Tea Party, and we are here to interview Mr. Nick Tran. Welcome.
Thank you.
And with us is Larry Rogers, Kenneth Ernest, Luis Pedraza, and Lana Hort. And again, thank you very much for being here. And as we discuss, if you'd like to go ahead and start off by telling us why you run for this position, a little
Sure.
bit about you and why you run for this position. Feel free to take up 5 minutes and
Sure.
welcome again.
So thank you for having me and giving up your Tuesday night for being here. A little bit about me. My name is Nick Tran. I'm running for Texas 8. I came here um, very, very long time ago when I was a young boy. I escaped Vietnam during the fall of Saigon. So as you know, Vietnam was in a civil war. The South was a constitutional republic, just like America. We fought against communism. And in April 30th, 1975 is when we lost the war, and communist forces were coming into the city. And my father was a former colonel, and he couldn't use his privilege to get out of the country a lot earlier with all of our money and everything that we've gained through his life. But he chose to stay and help fight and coordinate a counteroffensive against 20 divisions of North Vietnamese forces that come into the city. He did that to buy more time for people to get out of the country. And because of that, we were not able to get out of the country by plane. We had to get by boat. And my father and I jumped on a small boat. My mother had already been captured on the other side of town by the communists. Never saw her again. But we got into a small boat made for 18 people, jumped on it with no plans, except that's desperation, and got on with 100 people on this tiny boat and went out to sea. 3 days later, we're stranded out in the ocean. We ran out of food and water. People started dying from dehydration. We had sent out SOS messages throughout the 3 days, but we never knew if anybody got them. And our batteries died on that third day. Luckily, on the third day, we got rescued by an American warship. And in that moment, I was 5 years old, and they saved our lives. And at that moment, I was American. I became American. It took a long time to actually go through the process of legally coming into the United States. But at that point, I knew I was going to be an American. They took us to Guam. We lived in that refugee camp until we were granted political asylum. We came straight to Texas. My dad wanted to try to get in oil and gas and never got in. But we assimilated very quickly. He taught me that you go to somebody's house, you need to respect their house rules. You don't try to change things. You be polite and you try to help in and pitch in when you can. As I grew up, I took that to heart, and I decided to serve to repay this country for saving us and also for fighting for us. Spent 3 years in the Army, fought in Desert Storm, first in Gulf War. Got out, went to college, used my GI Bill to pay for my own way through college. Started a career in energy and did real well until September 11th, 2001. And again, I felt that need to repay this country and do something. So I reenlisted in the Army, went to Afghanistan, and then fought again in Iraq. So I fought in 3 different wars. I swore an oath to defend our Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And I had an opportunity to see our enemies in the mountains of Afghanistan and deserts of Iraq. I knew how brutal they were. And then I see the enemies destroying our country from within, not just the illegal immigration, but politicians who collude with the left and the radical Marxist left that tries to destroy this country. I grew up fighting, escaping from a communist country. I hate communism in every aspect and everything that leads to communism, including socialism. And I'd be damned if I let that happen here. That's why I'm stepping up to fight for us and to run in Congress. After military, after 13 years in the military, I got out, worked for oil and gas. I worked 12 years in oil and gas. I created a global program to help veterans get off the streets, heal from PTSD, and got thousands of vets jobs within oil and gas. And that's a program built for Schlumberger. And then after I was laid off in 2024, August 2024, because oil and gas is very cyclical, I decided to step up. With a lot of things that happened, like this attempted assassination on President Trump, and just 4 years of Biden, open borders, and I am against illegal immigration. We spent 8 years becoming citizens. I'm not okay with people just skipping a line. So I decided, this is a calling for me. It was time for me to step up and run for Congress. I've never been the type of person that just sit by the sidelines. I wasn't groomed for politics. I am somebody just a regular person that felt the need to step up. I've always been a fighter, and I want to fight for us against DC, against the establishment and the radical left. And that's my story.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Um, so let me get this timer reset.
I have to say, I sound like I have a list because I got a retainer. I had a podcast with Lieutenant Colonel Alan West on a Monday, and that Sunday night I got in a fight with Corncob and lost. My
Right.
my tooth fell out, and I haven't had time to go to the dentist, so I got a retainer. I might take it out just so I can won't talk like I have a list.
So you live in Harris County now?
I live in Harris County.
What part of Harris County are you in?
I live in Creekside.
Oh,
Creekside Green.
Okay.
It is very weird. When I came here, I had to say, we moved to Woodlands. You drive into my neighborhood, it says Woodlands, but we're in Spring is the address, and my school's called Tomball ISD. I'm like, how's that work?
Yeah, we live in Woodlands and have a spring mill in
Yeah.
there, so kind of weird. So, are you in between jobs right now?
No, I am in between jobs. My next job is congressman, so I'm
Okay.
not running, doing anything except running full time.
Oh, yeah, it's full time. Okay. How long were you with Schlumberger?
10 years.
Okay, and what area were you in with Schlumberger?
So I was corporate. I was corporate headquarters. I started off, like I said, building the global veteran program, but also then went into community affairs as the community director, helping women and kids get into STEM, get kids interested in STEM, math, and science,
Okay.
and then empowering women in jobs.
Okay.
With
Did you do anything on the technical side of?
Well, Schlumberger is a technical company, so yeah, there's a lot of technical side pieces to that.
Right.
But creating AI and stuff like that to help with STEM and math and education.
Okay. All right. So you were running for CD2 at one time. Why'd you switch over to CDA?
So I decided to switch after Morgan Luttrell stepped down. I had calls from veterans, lots of veteran groups, and also oil and gas saying that you need to consider stepping up, jumping into that race. With Steve Toth jumping in too, Steve Toth and I are very aligned in the way we think and the way our values are. So it was, I felt like C2 was covered. And with the redistricting, going down to taking a big part of Harris County, I have good ties in there with the different communities, including oil and gas, because it goes into the oil and gas corridor. But also there are Vietnamese American groups who came here hating communism. And so I have a strong following over there too that will support me.
If this goes off and you have a thought, just go ahead and finish it. Okay, Lon.
I noticed we had asked the question about what was your position on Trump's tariffs, and part of your answer was they're a good short-term solution. Elaborate on that and why a short-term solution, not a long-term solution, or if we understood that correctly.
Yeah, so I think the tariffs are essential because for years countries like China have grossly missed. It hasn't been fair for us. They tax real high, we tax very low, and the tariffs will help with Trump's idea of maybe eliminating the IRS and having an external revenue service. But the tariffs right now are hurting small business owners dramatically. A lot of people have lost businesses because some of their supplies they are not able to get or afford. It can't be something that'll last for years. It needs to be concluded soon. And I have full confidence that Trump, the master negotiator, will eventually come to terms. I mean, with his recent meeting in China, that they turned out really well. I think we're very close to finding a resolution to that. Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Louis.
So on here we were talking about financial benefits to non-citizens, and you said strongly opposed to that. Can you elaborate why you feel that is the right position?
Yeah, I mean, just dumb it down. I mean, there's an acronym in the military: keep it simple, stupid. KISS. I always think a leader of a country should be, it's like almost like the head of a household. You need to take care of your family first before you take care of the neighbors down the street. Non-citizens, illegal immigrants, have no business taking money from our hard-earned tax dollars. I'm running on America First policy. That means Americans first. And okay. So I want to say more about this because I'm pretty passionate about it. America, we get called racist. We get called all these names for doing what most countries in the free world are doing. I mean, you're talking about Denmark, you're talking about Switzerland, Japan. They have very stringent immigration policies. And if you come to that country, there has to be a reason. You either bring you bring skill sets, you bring jobs, but they all require you to assimilate and learn the language very quickly. And I think we should emphasize that too for our immigration policies.
Okay. Dennis?
Nick, I usually kind of ask these questions separately, but I'm going to try and push them all together into one question, so I apologize in advance. So we're at $38 trillion in debt. We've got almost a $2 trillion deficit this year in the budget. We've got all these things that we've got to pay for, and then we've got the 10th Amendment. What do you propose when you get elected to Congress that you're going to cut to balance the budget and get our debt down? And what are you going to push down to the states under the 10th Amendment?
Well, obviously, I'm going to cut funding for endless wars, funding for countries like Ukraine. I mean, unless it is to benefit America directly, my America First policy is we don't need to be spending $49 billion to Ukraine when America's struggling. And as far as like pushing things down to the state, I have to say I am not very familiar with the 10th Amendment. Can you tell me what that is, and I can be able to elaborate more?
Basically, the 10th Amendment says that anything that's not enumerated in the Constitution is reserved for the states. So if it's not in the Constitution, it's not supposed to be in the federal government. The states are supposed to handle it.
Okay.
So that's the 10th Amendment.
Are the people?
Yeah.
Well, I know one thing is for sure that the government needs to fund is protecting our borders. I mean, that's part of the Constitution, I believe. It is the Fourth Amendment, Section 4, that requires the government to protect our borders from foreign adversaries, and so that shouldn't be pushed down to the states. That should be something the government handles. But as far as for state, part of building our state military, enforcing it, creating the training for our defense, but also for our law enforcement. Aside from federal law enforcement, which is federal, but that should be dictated by the states.
Okay.
Okay, one of the questions was, do you support or oppose the federal government making immunizations mandatory? And you said I strongly oppose it.
Yes.
Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah. So as a parent with a son who has severe ADHD, I'm pretty confident that was caused because he got 5 shots before he left the hospital, like when he was born. The COVID debacle was something that definitely government overreach. We should, I felt obligated to have to take the vaccine because I work for Schlumberger, and they required it, and that was because the administration pushed it on corporations. Schools required it, and the kids that are too young, they required to be masked or stay home. So I'm very opposed to federally or state mandated immunizations. We live in a free country. We shouldn't be forced to take experimental drugs. And as you know, the pharmaceutical companies run a lot of we call it the Food and Drug Administration. It's no longer the Food and Drug Administration. It's just simply the Drug Administration.
Okay. Let's see. All righty. So the Biden administration had open borders. Why did they do this? Number one. And did Governor Abbott react appropriately within a certain time frame? I mean, there is when there's an invasion, he can act.
Mhm.
And so why did Biden open the borders? And where was Abbott when this happened? And why didn't he react?
Okay. Biden or whoever was controlling Biden opened the borders because it changes the voting in the country. When you have a group that is coming over here, gets free benefits, housing, education, and phones from a certain party, they're going to vote more of that party. But it also changes the redistricting lines in the voting. So the Biden administration opened the borders to stay in power at the expense of the American people and our safety. And Abbott did not respond as fast as he should. I mean, he could have stopped it right away. I mean, he played political games and tried to juggle, trying to get support from one group or another instead of actually being a leader and getting it done. And as a combat vet, I know when there's an invasion, you need to handle it very, very quickly before it gets to the point where it's millions. And at that point, I don't know how many millions came in before he actually stopped it.
Yeah, it took him about 3 years before he reacted
Well,
and
we
did anything about it.
supposedly
So,
in 4 years we got 10.8 million. In 3 years, what is that? 8?
22 million.
Yeah.
okay, Lana?
Protecting the southern border is a big deal to me.
Mhm.
Many people say right now that our southern border that we should be protecting is the one between Montgomery and Harris County at this point. But with that in mind, I know that you're for protecting the border.
Mhm.
What can we do to disincentivize job givers from hiring people that are illegal?
Mhm.
What do you have in mind to make sure that that is economically a bad idea in the policies that you will make from here forward?
Sure. So I wrote that in my answer is fine the company $10,000 for each illegal immigrant worker, and then there's a I think 5-year maximum penalty of jailing if you did it purposely, and you're going to get warnings. But keep on doing. You're going to find out. And then there's also fines for companies that say I didn't know. Well, that's $5,000 too. So how you hurt companies is their bottom line, and I know that very well. You being in business, you find them, and you make it very, very difficult for them to continue down the path that we don't want them to continue. E-verify is very important, so mandate that across all companies nationwide.
All right, Luis?
Election integrity. So, that to me is at the core of on the hierarchy of if we fix election integrity,
Mhm.
we'd really have more of a fair society here or representative society. So your answers are pretty detailed, but what specific actions in Congress do you think we should take to mitigate election fraud?
Okay, so biggest thing for me, I'm not afraid of saying it. You need to require you have to have an ID. It is an absolute. And I know the Democrats like to say, oh, the certain groups are not able to get an ID. I call bullshit on that because you have to have an ID to get SNAP benefits. You have to get an ID to do anything. And that just to think that a minority group can't get it because they're not smart enough, that is racism in itself. So definitely mandatory voter ID. And I'm not talking about your learner's permit. You got to have a picture of a state license ID. And of course, mail-in ballots, you know how I felt about that because you can just, not only can be altered, I mean, we've got videos of mail carriers dumping ballots that they know were conservative ballots. So that's a big issue. But, I have to think real hard about that. How do you fix that when you got people that can't go out and vote? They're bedridden or something like that. Then propose some solutions as far as mobile units that can go out to get people's votes. And then the question you may ask is, how do we pay for that? I can tell you from that $49 billion that we're giving out to countries, let's stop doing that and put that towards Americans.
All right. Ken?
Have you had a chance to review the RPT platform? Have you looked over it?
I looked over it, yes, quickly, but I don't remember everything.
Sure. I mean, there's 300 and some planks to the
Yeah.
yeah. So, okay, so you're
Kenneth's
familiar
got to
with it.
memorize.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, there wasn't anything that stood out that I was against.
Mhm.
So
Okay. How about, have you been a delegate, have you gone to, your precinct convention? Have you been to your senatorial convention or over to state convention? Have you been to any of the conventions?
so hopefully this answer will help any further questions. I'm new to politics. I'm not. I wasn't groomed for politics. I was a person that decided that I never would run for politics, and then decided one day that maybe it's time to step up. So I've never done any of those things. I'm new to politics, but I'm not new to service. I'm definitely not new to selfless service. Spent 13 years in the military fighting 3 wars. So I know how to serve, I know how to fight, but not the politics.
Okay, curious. So you were enlisted when you went over to Desert Storm. Did you take your commission?
No,
when you
I
went-
never commissioned. I'm a regular person that spent my entire military career as an enlisted, so basically blue collar, and then used my college fund to pay for my own way through college. Not free college or anything. Well, maybe it's free, but you had to serve for it. And then I got my degree afterwards, and then went to Harvard Business School. What's that? And just embrace the American dream. The opportunities are here, and be able to do those things.
What was your MOS?
So my first MOS, I was 13 Bravo, which is artillery cannon crew member.
Mhm.
And then after going to several wars and seeing a lot of people get hurt, I reclassed as a combat medic. So I became a medic afterwards to try to save lives.
Did you go through BAMC for training or?
No, I
Or
actually,
were they-
for medical training,
Yeah.
I went to, we had a deal with the Navy, and they had facilities in San Diego. And luckily, we got to go to San Diego for 3 months and became a medic through there.
Okay. All right.
Not Fort Sam Houston.
Yep. There you go. Bob?
I appreciate your service as a veteran as well,
Yes.
Vietnam and Gulf War. I have a hard time lately with supporting veterans after running through the congressman that we have here, and the other one that just decided to leave, when the voting records are so strong.
Mhm.
Or so poor. And I did some research on it, and a lot of the veterans that we have that have been elected because they were SEALs or whatever, their voting records are terrible. How can you assure us that you're not going to fall into that same pattern?
I've heard that before, and of course, you know that not all veterans are the same. You've had good officers and bad officers, and so forth. The difference is, you missed my story where I escaped Vietnam during the fall of Saigon, so I know what communism is like, and you know how much I hate that.
Right.
And I'll be damned if I let this country fall to that. So that's what I'm fighting for. The difference between me and say Luttrell and also Crenshaw is that they became congressmen after serving the military.
Right.
I spent a good many years working in corporate America in oil and gas, so I know how to run the P&L. I know, been to business school. I know what it takes to run a business and how to fail in a business, and how to make money, spend wisely, and those are the differences. I I can't say that I've been too impressed with many of the veterans in Congress right now. I would say Eli Crane's the only one that stands out for me, and Nick Fritas, even though he's not in Congress, he's a state rep. Those are two guys that I admire because they hold true to their ground. Who knows how long Eli is going to stay that, but right now he's still on the path. And I remember there were congressmen that were military surrounding him, getting him to vote a certain way, and he decided not to. He stuck with his guns. He stuck to his true north, and that's what I plan on doing. I can tell you what I'll do and what I'll not do, but you can only see what I've done in my service and how I've kept my promises. As like I have my promise to repay this country for fighting for us, for guys like you who fought in Vietnam and came here and did not get thanked for. I joined the military because of Vietnam vets, because you guys fought for us in our constitutional republic, and I kept my promise.
Thanks.
All right, Larry?
I'm gonna go back to my original question and get you to elaborate a little bit more. The, back when I was a kid getting ready to go to school, I had to have 3 vaccinations, and that's many years ago. And then we had polio,
Mhm.
and then everybody had to get polio shots. How, when you say the government shouldn't get involved, how do you justify what we went through? And now it's certainly got out of hand, there's no
Mhm.
question about it. When I used to, I'd get three different shots. Today, the kids are getting what, 30?
My son got 5 before he left the hospital the day he was
By
born.
the time they're 5 years of age. That's what the current vaccination schedule
What is
says.
it?
28.
28.
Mhm.
So how do you, back when we got our shots, it was a good thing.
So, are you done with your question? Because I didn't want to answer before you
No.
finish. Here's the advantage I have. Being a medic, I understand, vaccines. There's a big difference between vaccines that have been around for 50 years, that have been proven, versus the new vaccines that come on board, pushed by big pharma, so they can make a profit and turn profit. You got to have, just like in everything with science, it has to be tested and checked and double tested and verified and then fight. If a vaccine's been around for 50 years plus, I think we're good. We can probably check that one off. But when it's under 10 years or worse than that, less than a year, and get pushed out, that's a hard damn no for me. So
Thank you.
hopefully that answers it.
Yeah.
Okay. You talked about the grid, and that's one of the things that you would like to focus on, protect the infrastructure and homes. Securing federal grants for District 8's flood-prone areas, upgrading levees to prevent another Hurricane Harvey, and fund cybersecurity for ERCOT's grid.
Mhm.
How vulnerable do you think our grid is after freezes and hurricanes and whatnot?
So I am part of in discussion with a lot of the intel community and the special operations community, and also the people focusing on our grid. It is extremely, extremely vulnerable. Like we have power stations that the only thing that's keeping somebody out is a padlock, and of course, 10. You said 22 million illegal immigrants coming in the country. Most of them aren't. Most of them are here probably for a better life. But there are state and non-state actors that have come here, enemies that we fought against, from either Hamas, Taliban, whatever, but also state actors like Iranians and Chinese to take us down. There's no country that can take us from the outside. They can take us from the inside. There's terror cells that are already formed, and taking out the power grid is extremely dangerous. And most Americans don't realize, if you lose power for, a week, a month, a lot of people will die, because that also shuts down supply chains. There may be no food in the stores, no gas in your house, no water. So it's extremely dangerous and extremely critical. How do we fix that? First of all, you got to take out the terror cells that are here. I mean, we have credible knowledge that they're looking to do an October 7th style attack, that what happened in Israel 2,000 years ago. Here in the United States, multiple cities at once, which is going to make 9/11 look like a walk in the park. 9/11 was funded with $550,000 to fund the terrorists. Biden accidentally gave the Taliban $220 million. So yes, ERCOT, Texas has its own power grid, and it's very vulnerable, and it must be protected, along with everything else. I know time's running out, but I can speak more about this much more.
From a medical perspective, as a medic, we're allowing schools to give birth control to kids without parental consent.
Mhm.
In some cases, we're allowing gender affirming counseling, and in some places, gender affirming surgeries are happening still despite legislation against it.
Yep.
What do you think can be done to get that back under control? So that parents are in charge of their children again, and it's not taken out of their control by the education system.
I have a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old, so that's very high on my list. I think our education system is broken. Our education system was built, was modeled after the Persian education system, and then it was brought over here in the United States in the 1920s to create workers. The Persian army created that to make soldiers be obedient and stuff like that, and that got modeled into the United States to make workers who are obedient and so forth. They're not teaching critical stuff like critical thinking, financial literacy, U.S. history, Constitution, and etiquette. So these are things that needs to be fixed in our education system. I mean, for what you're talking about with sexual stuff in the schools, that is not up to the schools. I will fight damn hard to get that for, I want to be able to tell, to direct how my children is going to grow up, how they're going to, what they're learning and what they shouldn't be learning. And that's a hard fight for me. But not only that, I want to go above and beyond and change our education system to make those things that, like I said, are very important, not just to make workers, but entrepreneurs and people who can think for themselves and understand why we have the Constitution and amendments. And if you don't teach U.S. history, then that's why they don't understand it.
Okay, Luis, we got about 15 minutes.
Okay.
On the deficit, we're somewhere around 35 trillion and counting. So you answered, you said I'll push to slash waste and balance the budget. Specifically, I mean, how do we, this is a monster, okay? It's a complex, very multi-layer monster. You can't just say, well, we're going to slash waste. I think there has to almost be a business view on it and how to reduce it. Any thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, I don't like omnibus bills where they stick in.
Yeah.
We in the military we call it drug deals. I mean, it's not really drug deals, but like we're negotiating with the Taliban. There's some give and take. They stick in drug deals basically in these omnibus bills that 10,000-page bills nobody reads. And it's just like what's going on right now with them, locking down the government because they want $1.8 billion for illegal immigration benefits, and it's shutting down the government for that. So I would fight to push for single item bills, and that's a very hard task to do because there's a lot of people that are going to fight against that. But to get something closer to that, or at least if you're going to have a big bill, at least it requires congressmen to be able to understand what's in it. And slashing waste, I mean, we're not just talking about Ukraine. We're talking about funding for gender studies in some countries. And it's not about, we shouldn't be taking money from our citizens to pay for other countries, for benefits for other countries. We should be using our money. If it doesn't benefit the United States, we shouldn't be spending money for someone else. That's how I feel about it.
Okay.
So Nick, I'm often asked as a grassroots conservative, what's the difference between a grassroots? I'm looking at what does it mean to be conservative? Your answer. I'm often asked as a grassroots conservative, what's really the difference between a grassroots conservative and an establishment Republican? Can you give me kind of your definition and kind of where you stand on a couple things that where you classify yourself?
Yeah, I'm definitely a grassroots conservative. I'm a political outsider. I'm not part of the establishment. I didn't know about Latrell stepping down and then coming online the next day with endorsements and $500,000. I am a guy that have worked through my whole life, paid for my own way through college, came here as an immigrant, and was able to achieve the American dream in my lifetime. And what I'm doing is I'm fighting to make sure that my kids have that opportunity. Your kids and your grandchildren have the opportunity of the American dream, which I feel is slowly slipping away. Because we're going down the path of up is down and down is up, and it's not right. Grassroots conservative means for the people, somebody who is who is just a regular person, not somebody who's groomed for politics, not somebody whose resume is built from DC, but somebody my resume is built from the battlefield and also the boardrooms of oil and gas. from the grit and understanding that America is the beacon of light and hope for the world, and there's nowhere else I'm going to go to escape from. I came here and assimilated very quickly. I grew up in Texas, lived here for over 50 years, except for the time that I served in the military and been all around the world. I've always been a Texan, and to be able to have an opportunity for somebody like me, who's just a regular person, be able to step up and to represent the regular people, is what makes I feel is the grassroots movement and who I am.
Just real quick, you made a comment about 500,000 and recommendation or endorsement. Was that somebody else?
I'll let you do that. I mean, I'll let you look up the candidates, but
Oh,
I,
okay.
I didn't know about Luttrell's stepping down until somebody called me and said, "Hey, did you know he stepped down?" I thought I was one of the first persons in, because I
Oh, and
decided to switch
he-
8 days after.
So he gave whatever he had in his bank account to somebody.
No,
that
not
endorsed?
no. Luttrell did not. But I'm saying somebody who basically knew that Luttrell was stepping down, I felt was the establishment backfill.
Okay.
For me, I'm tired of the government or the establishment telling me, picking my representatives for me. I want to be able to pick my own.
Gotcha.
I mean, the Democrats did that with Kamala. They never had a chance to vote for primaries. I don't want somebody picking somebody for me, and I think most people don't either.
Okay, we got about 10 minutes, Bob.
You acknowledge that our country was established on Judeo-Christian values.
Mhm.
Our First Amendment gives everybody the right to freedom of religion.
Mhm.
How do you feel about the overtaking of cities, communities, states by Muslims taking place now, and they're called to prayer and taking over the cities, where it was never done or couldn't be done by anybody with Judeo-Christian values to do it.
It's an abomination. Our founding fathers didn't visualize that was going to be something that was going to be accepted. Western civilizations for thousands of years have fought tooth and nail to keep Muslims out of the borders, and now we're opening up and welcoming them in. There's a difference between coming here, assimilating, and wanting what lays here in America, which is Judeo-Christian values, Western values. Now, a lot of politicians will be afraid to say this, but countries, again, like Switzerland, like Denmark, and Japan, have very stringent immigration policies. Switzerland, in particular, only allow EU people to immigrate as long as they have skills in trade. From developing countries, it's very, very, very strict. There has to be a reason for you to want to come in our country, and if it's asylum, then it's vetted very, very stringently. But if you just want to come and live, what are you bringing to the country? And if you come to this country, Japan, like one, requires assimilation, not just the language, but the culture. And our culture is Judeo-Christian. My family were Christian Catholics. We grew up here, so it wasn't very much of a stretch for us. But it's something that we firmly believe in. To have call for prayer, I know what that's like in overseas. We don't have church bells ringing 5 times a day, and 3 in the morning, 6 in the morning. Of course, it only happens because we allow it to happen. It needs to be a point where we put a foot down. And of course, noise or laws and stuff like that. The reason, again, with immigration, how much time I got? 28 seconds. I believe America is a land of immigrants, but there has to be a stop. There has to be a point where you have to limit those who come in this country that do not reflect or have opposition to our culture. And that's why you got Ilhan Omar getting elected, because it has a huge Somali population, and you have now 9/11 in New York City. 25 years, we got a mayor that's going to be a radical Muslim socialist.
He's not mayor yet, but
Not yet, but that's scary as hell to think
Yeah.
that can happen.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, Larry.
I pass. I'm done.
All right.
I'll say real quick, I fought in every Muslim country, in my military career, and I know the brutality that leads to. And I have friends that are Muslim, but it's just not a culture that is aligned with ours, even moderate Muslims. And I'm not afraid to say that as a politician.
Yep.
Maybe that makes me a political outsider, but I'll say it.
The in your opinion, this was questioned. What are the 3 top areas our elections are susceptible to fraud. What can the federal government to mitigate that? You said number one is mail-in ballots,
Mhm.
two, voter ID fraud, three, non-citizen voting. What about machine hacking? Do you think that's an issue?
Yeah.
Um,
This, what was it, the Dominion machines? Yeah, definitely a big issue with that. Um,
what about here in Texas with Hart's machines and ES&S? It's
you, you,
40, 60.
you can name different machines. It's the same issue. It can be hacked. Um,
Or they hacked. So,
were they hacked? I don't know if they were or not,
okay.
but the possibility is definitely there. Being a tech guy from a technical company, Schlumberger is a technical company. I understand blockchain. Blockchain is a good avenue for us to maybe consider using that for voting because it can't be hacked, it can't be duplicated, and you only get one vote. You can't vote if you're dead. You have to be verified to be able to vote. So I mean, we're in the 21st century. It's time to be able to use some of that technology to preserve one of our most important core issues, which is election integrity. I mean, there's no sense having elections if one side is going to steal it all the time. And for me, Texas is so important because if we lose Texas, we lose electoral college, and then we have a one party state country, and that cannot happen.
So I'm
So
not sure I understood blockchain. Can you explain?
yeah, blockchain
more?
is like it's a very it it's hard to explain in 38 seconds, but it is an unhackable. Um, it's almost like on the internet, but there's so many codes that everybody has a piece of it. That not one person can go and change that code. So if you use blockchain, as most companies use it for security measures, to vote, that vote gets counted only once. Cannot be counted again. Cannot be duplicated. Cannot be changed.
Okay.
So as long as you have ID and you can use your ID to vote, that's all there is. I mean, there's 330 million people in America, and let's say 60% are voting age. Should be only that many people voting.
All right. Got about 5 minutes left. Who's that?
You talked about liking Nick Freitas. He's one of my favorite people as well.
Mhm.
I don't know if you caught one of the broadcasts he made about how he decided that he was no longer going to be reaching across the aisle after Charlie Kirk's assassination.
Yeah.
It was a different philosophical idea. And how will you accomplish something like that as a freshman in Congress? What will you do when they say, here's the bill, here's 780 pages, we just need to pass it, we don't have time to read it? How are you going to oppose that
Okay.
establishment idea?
I love this question. So the one of my campaign things that I was going to say is that some will reach across the aisle and vote with the Democrats. Some will try to work with Democrats. I'm running to protect you from the Democrats because they have gone way Marxist leftists and have gone overboard, and it's crazy. I don't care if I'm going to be a freshman candidate, just like being in the military. You may be the new guy. But if you're right, you stick to your what we call true north. Stick to your damn guns. If there's a 738-page bill that no one's read, well, you're not going to get my vote until everybody understands what the hell's in it. Because how we vote changes the country. And being grassroots and being a constitutionalist, I feel that we have enough damn laws on the books. We don't need to create another law for everybody for our lives. The laws that we have on the books need to be enforced. Mostly, there are a few laws that maybe we should add to help preserve our freedoms. But I'm not one to come out to Congress and start passing a shit ton of laws when the laws that have been passed have not been enforced. So I'm not looking to reach across the aisle. I'm looking to protect us from the left because they're gone.
All right, Luis.
So, you said that you would abolish the Department of Education on a global or on a larger scale. What other, I mean, the government's humongous
Mhm.
now. What other departments do you think also need to be restructured, reevaluated?
Yeah. So I've being in business, I know the best thing to do is I can't do it all. Hire those people who are smarter than you and let them do it. I'm going to partner up like Elon, guys like that, and abolish not only the Department of Education, but we really need to abolish the IRS. We need to abolish the ATF. These are agencies with government overreach of making laws with people that are unelected bureaucrats. Definitely, the VA, gone through that system. I can't tell you how broken that is. I mean, the first time I got back from Desert Storm, I sat in a waiting room for 3 hours, and then they called my name, and then like, oh, you didn't get your labs. Like, didn't somebody tell me that I need to get labs first? So I have to go upstairs and get labs, and it's 4 hours, and then come back, and then to finally wait 6 hours for me. That time I was 22-year-old. I said, forget this. I'm not going through this, and I never got my benefits from Desert Storm. That is so broken. You've got people in there that can't be fired, and they're actually literally killing our veterans. There were veterans sitting in a parking lot killing themselves because they're so frustrated not being able to get the care they need. So the VA not eliminating it, but definitely clean the house. I'm a big Second Amendment guy, so ATF there's no reason for it.
You think Doug Collins is doing a good job over VA?
I think he's not moving fast enough because I haven't seen any changes.
Okay. Okay.
So it's a pretty broad question for you on the CCP. Have you got any ideas of how best? I mean, we've got trade. Are they trustworthy? Are they going to attack Taiwan? What's your I know it's a very broad question, but how best to deal with the CCP?
Yeah, you could absolutely not trust them at all. Will they attack Taiwan? Yes, they will. If we let them. If they saw the weakness that Biden displayed, not under the current administration, will change the name to the Department of War, now with Hegseth, and that's another thing. People have always been doing the same thing over and over, hiring the same politicians. Oh, somebody with a certain background, putting 4-star general as the Secretary of Defense, instead of putting somebody in that has a new mindset, that wants to change things, that's not part of the old establishment, and we're actually making changes. So back to your question against China, there's absolutely we're not trusting them in any shape, way, or form. They only respect power, strength, and which is something that they're finally seeing what's happening. Trump came back and said that the meeting he had in China was a 12 out of 1 to 10. I'm always going to take a little grain of salt on that, but I think I think there's still good things from that. See if that will help reduce some of the tariff wars that we're having that's affecting small businesses. But you trust them at arm's length, and knowing that ultimately you can't trust them at all, but you still have a partnership where you can still benefit for our country. However that is, just understand that they're not to be trusted.
Do you see a pathway? And I know this is as a congressman, this is probably get a little bit even above your pay grade, but do you see regime change as a path for the U.S. to take? With Xi and the Chinese and doing.
You mean if there's an opportunity to overthrow the government? Seeing how we've messed up every time we do it, I would say no.
Fair enough.
Actually, that's history. That's told us,
Eh,
but we still do it.
As bad as Saddam Hussein was, Iraq needed a Saddam Hussein because we overthrew that and we created ISIS, which is a lot worse.
I'm done.
Yeah, we're at 5-minute mark. If you want to take the next 5 minutes.
Yeah, so
as your close.
Talk about something that's important to for me, having been born in war and fought in 3 different wars. I hate war, and I don't want to send my children, into a situation where it's an endless war. Our military should be used as a world police force or nation builder. It should be an end, and we shouldn't be fighting other people's wars. Yes, we're not going to be just isolated from the world, but we should protect our interests. And if it doesn't actually directly benefits America, we should leave people alone. Like talking about like Ukraine, should let them handle that stuff out themselves. And if there's a threat, then we'll go out and address that threat, and then come back and say, you mess up again, we'll come out and we'll repeat this process many times as possible. But we should not be trying to rebuild that country. That's the mistake we did in Iraq. That's the mistake we did in Afghanistan. The pullout of Afghanistan was horrendous. And then I've seen the fall of Saigon. When Afghanistan fell, that was like deja vu for me. 20 years of blood and treasure for nothing. And then we left billions of dollars of weaponry that's going to be used against us and our children in the future. Stay out of people's business unless they're a threat to us, unless it benefits us. Not feed the military industrial complex.
That it?
I guess I'll just use the rest of that. But again, I am new to politics. I'm a political outsider, and I'm running. I feel like I'm running for right reasons. A couple things I've already announced. I've already made the pledge, the 3-term limit pledge. Before I signed that pledge, it was already on my website at the end of my page where it says priorities. I pledged to only serve 3 terms in Congress. I pledged to donate a third of my salary to veteran causes. I make more money in oil and gas than a full congressional salary. And even on top of that, I want to give a third to veteran causes because I feel a public servant should be serving, not for the benefit. If I get rich from being a congressman, it's not because of insider trading, it's because of the investments already made in cryptocurrency. The other thing is I will not accept money from foreign lobbyists like AIPAC. I will accept money from like Gun Owners of America, PAC, but not for that. I've gotten my endorsements have come from patriots like Lieutenant Colonel Allen West, Veterans for America First, ton of veterans that I've served with that know me personally on the battlefield, and also I'm working on General Flynn's endorsement. So those are endorsements that I'm looking to either gotten or will be looking to get, not from a career politician. I know I'm doing it for the right reasons. I love this country. I was able to achieve the American dream in my lifetime. And for me to preserve that for our children is very important because I've already done an escape from a country. I'm not gonna do it again. Really, there is no other country to go to. Europe for me has fallen because of the policies that I've seen are happening here, and that's making me stand up. The Islamic culture seeks to take over a country from within. They have certain steps they do. They use lawfare against us. They call us Islamophobes and use our tolerance against us. And that's what's happening in every pretty much developed Western European country. And I'll be damned if I won't let that happen here.
All righty. Well, great. Thank you very much for coming in, and good luck in your campaign.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Appreciate you.
I was hoping for more questions.